I'm David Skidmore. Almost all of the music that we've played in this series so far has been focused on one area of the marimba at a time, with both hands quite close to one another on the marimba. But what do we do when our hands are spread far apart on the instrument, or one hand has to move quickly from the lowest register of the marimba to the highest register of the marimba? Today, we're going to focus on these large leaps around the marimba. And this is also going to give us another chance to look at independence between different voices and distinguishing accompaniment material from melodic material. This first exercise starts to deal with these large leaps around the marimba. As with a couple of past lessons, in this lesson, the left hand and right hand both play accompaniment and melody. In warm-up number 1, the right hand joins the left hand to play accompaniment chords at the beginning and end of the bar. And in the middle of the bar, it goes to the high register of the marimba and plays a melodic line. For this exercise, I notated exactly when your right hand should shift from the low register to the high register and back from the high register down to the low register. So start nice and slow and treat these shifts that I've notated just the same way that you would treat any rhythm that you would play on the marimba. Now, we've been talking about this kind of shift from note to note since the very early lessons in this series. And large interval shifts on the marimba work the exact same way as any other shift from note to note. If anything, the method that we've been using is even more important when the leap is larger. Getting to that next note as soon as possible will really improve your accuracy. If you'll start slow and be very specific about when your hands are moving, you'll develop a lot of great habits that will be with you when you get to the performance. Also think about what your eyes are doing while you're playing. A quick glance to the register of the marimba that you're about to play in will also really help your accuracy. If you rely entirely on peripheral vision for these larger leaps, then your accuracy could suffer. It's very helpful to think actively about what your eyes are doing and when your hands are moving when you're learning a piece of music. When the music's nice and slow, when you're focused on a few measures at a time, because again, you're going to create a bunch of great habits that'll be with you for as long as you play that piece. Warm-up number 2 deals with large interval shifts in both hands, where both hands start in the low register and then have to shift to the high register and back down to the low register again. Notice in particular how quick that shift is for your right hand after the first note to get to that second note in time. The left hand immediately follows the right hand, shifting while the right hand plays the second note of the measure. Now, this is a lot to think about in a 2-measure exercise, but if you'll take the time to do this work early on while you're learning a piece and the tempo is nice and slow, you'll be ingraining a lot of good habits that'll help your accuracy on down the line. As you get more comfortable, it may not be necessary for you to shift your hands at exactly the times that I've notated in these exercises. I wanted to notate something specific in the exercises to give you a way to think about how these shifts will work. So use these exercises as a guide, and feel free to write your own exercises for other passages of this etude or other pieces if it'll help you find a way to learn the music and to practice it and become more accurate. Because the left hand and the right hand are both playing accompaniment material and they're both playing melodic material, we have to talk about independence so that we can create a clear delineation between these two different voices in this piece of music. Take a look at phrasing exercise number 1. I want to start simply by just playing the chords that are on the downbeat, nice and quiet, a piano dynamic level. Now let's play just the melodic notes in the middle of the bar, mezzo piano. Now, one measure at a time, let's combine the accompaniment with the melody, keeping the accompaniment at a piano dynamic level and the melody at a mezzo piano dynamic level. As you can see, my right hand has to shift very quickly from the last note of the melody to an accompaniment chord which happens on the downbeat of the next measure. Because that movement is really quick, I have to put extra effort into making sure that that chord is nice and quiet and in the mood of the accompaniment material. Continue to learn this exercise one bar at a time. And now we can put the whole exercise together. If it's helpful for you, you could start by doing the first 2 measures of the exercise and then do the last 2 measures of the exercise before putting all 3 measures together. Learning music in smaller chunks like this will actually make your learning process faster. So do your best to be disciplined and start with smaller chunks, especially on passages that appear to be more difficult. Now we've got the first stage of independence between these 2 voices. The accompaniment is quieter than the melody. But of course, we want to shape that melody. We want to use dynamics to create a musical phrase with it. So let's work on that in the next exercise. In phrasing exercise number 2, let's start by just playing the melody in the right hand with the suggested dynamic shape that I give you. Once we're comfortable with that dynamic shape, we'll add the accompaniment chords back in. Like with the last exercise, you can do this exercise 1 measure at a time. Take your time, start slow, and make sure that you're being really methodical with those dynamics that I suggest. Once you spend a few days working on the dynamics exactly as I put them on the page, it'll start to become more fluent for you, and it'll start to feel more natural as you're playing. There's a lot to think about in this etude, but it's also a really fun, kind of silly, quirky piece of music. So I hope you enjoyed playing it. Thanks so much for watching.